And what kind of timeline are we typically looking at, like in relationship to traditional orthokeratology? Do you have to work slower than, because you were saying that the corneas are actually easier because they're thinner. But given everything that you're doing, do we, compared to a typical Ortho-K patient, do we expect treatment to take longer over, and you have to monitor it more closely, or can we expect similar kinds of results as a traditional Ortho-K patient?
Well, again, I think since these patients are older, I think they take longer. From the time we start to the time we say, okay, this is a successful patient, that's a longer process than a young kid. That's what we all want to. We love kids. Kids are so easy, so straightforward. When we're dealing with adults, it's a different story, right? So from the standpoint that they're mostly adults or patients over 40, they're going to take longer just because we need adaptation. We're dealing with distance and near, and we're dealing with tear issues. So the tear dysregulation problems, the fact that you're dealing with distance near, the fact that they're post-LASIK, all these things make it more of a longer process in terms of we have to see them more closely. We have to make more designs. Sometimes we have to change designs. This is not a one thing. Oh, you pop it there and it works. For example, you might have a perfect patient. Perfect in the sense that you got great result. You see them in 2 weeks. They're doing great. You see them again in 1 month because, I usually do, by the way, 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. So that's the way we do it. So the patients, the staff dispense them. I don't even see them there. I see them 2 weeks later. I used to see them in 1 day, 3 days, 1 week. It was, then we realized you don't need that. So I see them in 2 weeks. I see them 2 months and 3 months. Unless there's changes to be made, unless they're not doing well, where we have to redesign. So we redesign and see them 2 weeks later. So there's all kind of different algorithms there. But the point is that we see them more often. That's one thing. You have to, and then I was saying, I'm sorry, kind of got ahead of myself. But so you have a perfect patient. You get +2, dominant eye, right eye. You make them perfect, and they're great. They're, hey, you know what? I love this. I can't believe it. This is like magic, man. You take a picture with them. They love you. They hug you. And then you see them again. Well, we'll see in 2 months and or 1 month, but they come back and all of a sudden, your over refraction was planar for the dominant eye, -150 for the left, which is very typical. And then all of a sudden they're +1 and +50. Right. Mm-hmm. So I say, well, what happened there? Well, there's this drift. So, it's working very well. And these corneas, all of a sudden, particularly LASIK corneas, they're more mobile, more dynamic, more unreliable in the sense that they behave in a volatile way. So all of a sudden, 2 months later, they're undercorrected, which is usually what happens. It doesn't happen the opposite. Usually undercorrected. And then you're like, what in the world? So, and I see that quite a bit. So at that point, you have to redesign. You need to validate the answer. So you have to ask the patient, you wore the molds last night, wore them for the last night straight. If I design having the wrong set of assumptions, I'm going to overcorrect you and you're going to hate your distance vision. So we go through a conversation. So many times, no, I'm just doing the same thing. I'm very diligent, this and that. And no, it's just that there's a drift where there's and something happens on the cornea that's in undercorrection. So those molds all of a sudden are underperforming and you have to redesign. So that's something that happens most often in post-LASIK patients than any other ones.
Yeah.
Not to mention RK. I do very, very few RKs. I have some successful RK, post-RK patients, radial keratotomy, the old cuts on the cornea. Savage, man. They were doing that before 95, right? And, there's so many people out there walking with these horrible corneas for people, right? So I attempted LASIK on those. Ortho-K on those patients post-RK, and those are even more volatile. That's crazy. I got it, man. This is good, and they're happy. All of a sudden, they come later and it's no longer working. So these corneas are not as reliable, I could say.
If you're interested in getting the rest of the episode, consider becoming a paid supporter of the Myopia Mindset. In addition to an extended version of this episode and every other episode that we do, you'll also get access to exclusive monthly bonus episodes of the Myopia Mindset. And I know you're interested. You've made it this far. You can do so on our Substack, myopiamindset.substack.com. I'll see you at the next one.